Um, I'm happy that, okay, no, it's maybe too loud. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today. I have had the pleasure of knowing CSANÁD BODÓ for several years now, and I'm delighted to have him here today with us. CSANÁD BODÓ is a habilitated associate professor at the Department of Hungarian Historical Linguistics, Sociolinguistics, and Dialectology at the EÖTVÖS LORÁND University in Budapest, Hungary. He is also head of the MTA ELTE Collaborative Writing Research Group. He is an expert in sociolinguistics, language ideology, language use, dialectology, dealing with language revitalization and participatory research. One of the recent projects he coordinated, and we also had the pleasure to work together in this, to collaborate, also some of our students. The title of the project is Language Revitalization, Socialization, and Ideologies Among Youth Living in the Csango Student Halls. Some of his recent publications include scientific articles on giving voice to the Csango figure, participation, roles, and the production of belief in language revitalization, published in 2023 in International Journal of the Sociology of Language. Another study that came out in 2023 is Participatory Sociolinguistics across researchers and participants' language ideologies. Or Participation in Sociolinguistic Research came out in 2022 in Language and Linguistic Compass. I would also like to mention one of his co-authored articles, The Moldavian Csangos, the Hungarian-speaking linguistic minority in northeastern Romania, that appeared in Linguistic Minorities in Europe Online, published by De Gruyter Mouton in 2020. It is not so recent, but I still want to mention one of his books, Language Ideologies and Differences, published by the Romanian Institute for Research on National Minorities. So please give him a warm welcome. CSANÁD BODÓ, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for the organizers for inviting me. It's a great pleasure for me to talk about linguistic encounters in participatory research. So my starting point is this, that empirical research and human interaction is based on encounters between researcher and the researched. But I must add that this distinction is a problematic one, so I will use the expression participants, and I will argue why is it important for us. So I will speak about encounters between all participants involved in the research. Of course, there is a question whether encounters are only a methodological question, so why to speak about them? I will argue that participatory research places encounters at the heart of linguistic inquiry. In this sense, participation involves ordinary people from outside academia in the production of knowledge. However, there are difficulties in creating a language that is accessible to all participants. So this is my question, how the language encounters is accessible for all participants who we want to involve in research. Involve and engage. So these are the key questions in doing participatory research. I will argue that developing innovative representations of language on the margins can make new knowledge more accessible to the people involved and to avoid a wider audience. My argument will be supported with two examples from our own research with participants in Moldavian multilingual communities. These resulted in Csango memes and a tabletop game which we labeled as the COVID Csango. So the structure of my talk, I will talk about first about participation in linguistic research in general. Then I will outline the context of our encounters in Moldavia and in Transylvania. Then I speak about the two projects that resulted the Chango memes and the Forbidden Chango Island tabletop game. And in my conclusions, I try to answer two questions. Why do we create memes and games if we work in academia? And closely connected to this question, I also try to answer how to understand and develop encounters in research. So my first question will be about participation in linguistic research, which is based on the involvement and engagement of as many people as possible to the extent that participation is relevant for them. Participation addresses the inequality between those who do research and those who are researched by collaborating with people who are not professionally engaged in the study of language. Here are some references. These are quite new and current attempts to do participatory linguistics. An important aspect of participatory research is language expertise. So we start with the assumption that anyone who speaks of science has language expertise. They are the only ones with such expertise in their own language. So all of us are experts in our word where we speak and try to understand what others tell us. So how to participate? Participation in linguistics means a lot of things, but I will focus on three aspects of them: participants, institutions, and language. The most important are, of course, participants, and participatory approach means that we recognize that everyone has the right to research. Everyone has the right to produce new knowledge in a way that is accessible to them. And this recognition leads to a more democratic understanding of research. The second aspect is our institutions. Participation means that involvement and engagement of participants must be supported by institutional actors, researchers, funds, universities, schools, or others. As institutional actors, we in academia have power. This power comes from these institutions. So I would call it institutional power. The question is how we use it and how we can collaborate with others by involving them. And the third aspect is language. Participation means, in my understanding, that we recognize that language matters. Participation requires the development of semiotically innovative ways of collaborating. How do we do? So, about the language. These innovative ways of collaboration are present in recent work. For example, the ethnographic drama Black Decrees, who recorded interactions during the fieldwork, and they transformed it into a so-called drama, ethnographic drama, or multilingual picture books created by children, or art-based research, or exhibition of hockey work, which is also language work. So this patch on the slide is a speculative design of an imagined hockey club in the north. And this is about how hockey work is done through language and other semiotic resources. So our approach to transforming collaboration is based on an inclusive language to democratize the practice of research by making the terminology of the collaboration more accessible. For example, we use the term project instead of research because for ordinary people, the word research is scaring. So it is better to use a more noun and more neutral word. Right? And we also use the word product instead of output or publication. But this is the only the first step. We also focus on the relationship between the object of linguistic research and language ideologies of everyone involved in the research. By language ideologies, we mean understanding how we speak, what is language, what is good for, and so on. In our project, questions, aim, and products are collaboratively defined. It also meant that participants define the products of the projects. Of course, it meant for us as university-based researchers that we gave up control over our project. Okay, some words about the context. We are in Moldavia, where multilingual practices of the minority called the Chang or Changri live. The map above shows where Moldavian Catholics live, who are usually called as Chango. And we did research among those who were involved in the Moldavian Chango-Hungarian educational program. The map below shows where the settlements where this program is in operation. And this program aimed the revitalization of the Chango-Hungarian language. So Chango is a contested language. There are two nationalizing and thus conflicting interpretations of the Chango language. Both are hegemonic, either in Hungary or in Moldavia. One interpretation links local language practices to Hungarian, and the other emphasizes their uniqueness and the differences from standard Hungarian. The first one states that Chango is a Hungarian dialect. This idea is upheld by Hungarian actors in Moldavia, in Hungary and Transylvania, and the idea is that Chango is Chango people and the Chango language is part of the Hungarian national language. In this sense, Moldavia is understood as a peripheral region of the Hungarian language, where members of the adult and senior generation speak in a way that is seen as archaic and considered valuable. Hungarian language revitalization in Moldavia, dominated by the endangered nature of this linguistic relic, and linked at the same time to the modernist idea of teaching standard Hungarian in the Moldavian Chango-Hungarian educational program. The other approach states that Chango is a mixed language. This is the mainstream Romanian perspective in Moldavia, mostly represented by politicians and academics, as well as by representatives of the Romanian Catholic Church. According to this, Chango doesn't belong either to Hungarian or to Romanian. It is a mixed language, and its status as an autonomous language is speculative. Moldavian Changos live in between these two discourses. This tension between the two approaches is manifested itself in political debate surrounding the official recognition of the language educational program in the early 2000s. But it also had a wider impact on the lives of the multilingual Moldavian people. However, local discourses do not assign relevance to whether Chango is a dialect of Hungarian or a language in its own right. Locals name the vernacular as the Chango mode of speaking, the Hungarian Changos beszéd, And this understanding of their linguistic practices emerged to deal with the tension between the two types of nationalism. Any participatory research that focuses on language can avoid conflicts that arise from such differences in local and non-local perspectives and categorizations, including ours. Before I'm going to talk about these two projects, I give a short overview how we did our research and what were our methods of analysis. So together with the people targeted by the Moldavian Csango-Hungarian educational program, we have conducted a series of research projects, not only these two ones that I will talk about. These are designed according to the same principle of critical involvement and engagement of all parties through participation in as many stages of the research as possible. My analysis focuses on the meta-discourses, language about language, speech about speech, which were formulated during the project. These meta-discourses revolved around linguistic difference and its understanding in relation to discourses of language in danger. And of course, about around many other things. Okay, the first project was the Csango memes, the sub-project of the so-called Csecsatáry project. Okay, the Csecsatáry project had three different types of participants. The first group or the first participant type was the mediator researcher. In this case, it was Isa Botezato, Csango origin anthropologist, who at the time of the project worked for the organization running the Moldavian Csango-Hungarian educational program and was engaged in organizing cultural events. In her own words, she is a pierced vegan, non-religious Csango who doesn't match the image of the typical Csango woman we can speak on book covers. She also determined to explore and present the complexities of what being a young and Romanian-speaking Csango means in the 21st century. She invited participants who were women in their 20s with university degrees, her childhood friends who used to attend Hungarian language classes together with her, but who are now living outside their native village. Most of them in Moldavia. And the third group consisted of accompanying researchers who, as the label shows, has accompanied this project. Our starting point was that research participants are socio-political actors with a reflexive and interpretive perspective on their own life. So they do not need to be empowered, which is a traditional or wide-ranging concept in doing collaborative or participatory research, but they need to be accompanied through their research journey. The project events had three different steps. The preparatory sessions were between the accompanying and mediator researchers who discussed a number of issues, including the concept of research, how to get by in life in Moldavia and outside Moldavia, or the issue of Romanian-speaking Moldavian intellectuals, which was raised by Isa, the mediating researcher. The project meetings were the core of the project, where all of the participants were together, mostly online. There were 5 meetings and resulted in the tangible product. And every project meetings were followed by discussions between the accompanying and mediating researchers. These were the reflexive discussions right after the project meetings. Okay, I will talk about only the project meetings, which were organized in the way that the mediator researcher invited Romanian-speaking participants as an act of symbolic resistance against the Hungarian language hegemony of the Csango research and the cultural and linguistic appropriation of the Csangos by powerful external actors such as the Hungarian government. She explained her decision to invite Romanian speakers in this way because they represent a huge part of our culture, Moldavian Csango culture, and it would be a pity if all the valuable information they possess were to be lost simply because they are not fluent in Hungarian. The mediator researchers approached to determine the language of the core project meeting, that is, they were held in Romania. The product was a series of Csango memes. They reflected on the participants' shared life experiences, connected mostly to their childhood, while also taking a critical stance as they reinterpret these early memories in the light of their adult knowledge. Why are memes important for us? This is a metamodern genre and a form of collective response to social and cultural phenomena. As discursive units, they are a form of ideological practice since they imply a certain degree of critique. The memes created within the project address topics such as the participants' relation to their mothers, religion, alcoholism, sexual education, domestic violence, and feminism. Here are some examples. Yes, when your mother, I don't know, do you see? Yes. What is about the mother, but it is about the mother, and she sees or hears or I don't know that your boyfriend goes to church. The second one is also about religion, and the third one is about sexual education. Most of these memes are about are in English and Romanian, and we have also a few in Hungarian by recalling the Hungarian folk song about blue eyes. Okay, which are nice. So what was a revelation for us that these memes did not discuss the question of how Hungarian language is related, or Csango languages are related to institutional actors such as the church or the school or other institutions in Moldavia. These questions during the discussions that were followed or were part of these meetings. And this interaction on the slide, this is a excerpt from a discussion between the mediator researcher and the invited participants. The mediator researcher attended high school here in this town in Csíkszereda, but she had the experience, in her words, in the opposite direction as the others. She experienced that we are Romanians here in this county, and we came here And although these childhood girlfriends did not talk about much, in this discussion, they find a common ground that there was prejudice against them, and also those girls who attended high school in Baku, in the county seat in Moldavia, most of the Changos did. They experienced that most of us were Catholics. I mean, we all were Catholics, mostly Changos, and there were very few people from the town. Of course, they were not Changos, and they say that I got into a class of phosphors. So this is an example of using an ethnic slur, which was an experience of those girls who did not leave Moldavia. Okay. There was a written reflection of an accompanying researcher from Pennsylvania who attended these meetings, but who had only a reflective role in this meeting because we took this participatory role of researchers seriously. So we thought that let it happen. What the mediating researcher and the invited participants want to do in these sessions and in the time together, then it will be important for us. Her reflection says that being part of the Hungarian minority in Transylvania is survival, preserving the mother tongue and the Hungarian identity. The sense of pride and superiority over the majority society. And there is a rejection and stigmatization of mixing, whether linguistic or ethnic. And she also reflects on ambivalent feelings about discriminations and writes that discrimination catalyzes, energizes the struggle for survival. Going on, this reflection is about the perception of Moldavian Hungarians who choose to speak Romanian. It's not complicated. They are lost, they are assimilated, they are gone. And this experience, or this understanding of assimilation is contrasted with these meetings of the Moldavian participants. And she, as a Transylvanian researcher, writes that the process of assimilation is not as simple as the metaphor of assimilation would suggest. Being considered lost by one community does not mean that one will be accepted by another community. So what we see in this, that meta discourses about language, about being Chango, being a speaker of another language, intersect in a way in the discussions that the accompanying and the mediator researchers created a safe space for the invited participants where their life experiences related to being a Romanian-speaking Chango were shared. It was shared in multiple ways. The invited participants referred to the stigmatization when arriving in a Romanian-speaking urban environment of another religion and discussed the understanding and personal political agendas concerning being a minority. However, the participants had different positionalities. I mean, different experiences, different understandings of being a minority, and there was little or no synergy achieved between the meta discourses of Moldavian and Transylvanian minority speakers within the project meetings, which led us to the conclusion that the common ideological work can only begin when the different experiences of social linguistic differences are interpreted in a common space, and participants jointly reflect on the lived experiences of belonging to the Csango and the Hungarian minorities, or to belonging to minority. Okay, just I'm coming to my second project, which is the for building Csango game of the family school project. And this is a project which we had 3 different groups of participants. We formed a group of university-based researchers, including Zsuzsi Dégi, who also mentioned in her introduction. We were Hungarian linguists and cultural anthropologists from Transylvania, from Hungary. We aim to achieve the political agenda of developing a common anti-hegemonic understanding of how the language practices of the local people are connected to social inequalities. And we meant it by deconstructing the essentialized link between the Hungarian nation and the Hungarian language, as we saw in the earlier discussion. In contrast to our own earlier research, it was important to work together with Moldavian participants in developing a representation of their life works that could have an impact on the Hungarian national rhetorics about them. The second group of participants were so-called language experts. They were from a Moldavian village, Lészped, which has some 2,000 inhabitants, and they were women in their 30s and 40s, and they had different language repertoires, varying from receptive knowledge of the Csango mode of speaking to everyday multilingual practices. The children attended Hungarian language classes at the time of the collaboration. So this was a common ground, and this was an institutional aspect of our collaboration. In their own words, they are open to becoming involved in new and community-shaping events that would also contribute to our personal growth. Their intention was to share the language practices of Lészped with people from outside their community and to engage in a discussion about these lived experiences of multilingualism through and around the game. The players were not part of the family Schola group, but of course, if we create a game, we need players. So we invited players, Hungarians from Romania, some from Hungary or from Transcarpathia to play the game together with us. Some of them lived in Hungarian majority regions, and others were minorities in their communities. Their heterogeneous positions were highlighted during the game sessions. For example, a student from a Transylvanian Hungarian majority settlement reacted to a game task that required her character, this is the character game, to interact with a Romanian child character that she has never met a Romanian child in her life. Okay, the family Schola, which was the frame of this game creation process, was a group of university-based researchers and from families from Lészped. We had several meetings in Lészped and the summer camp in Ivo. During this project, we collaboratively reflected on local language practices through a series of smaller projects, focusing on the differences in the participants' language repertoire. Projects included Hungarian classes for adults, Zsuzsi was involved in this one, and Csango classes for the university-based researchers, and many others. The creation of the game was the outcome of the Django classes, where a subset of participants worked on creating a tabletop game focusing on the highly contextualized greeting practices in Lacepad. This was the idea. The collaboration was grounded in the participants' non-hierarchical partnership and lasted from the first brainstorming session to the presentation of the game at an international conference. The game-playing sessions were in university settings, so groups of students played the game, conference participants played the game at the 22nd Social Linguistic Conference in Budapest, which we organized, and at the Tusványos Festival, where we approached and asked festival goers to play with us. Okay. The game is the culmination of several years of participatory research and aims to explore interpretations of practices that are widely discussed and threatened, allowing for a critical approach to language endangerment rhetorics. The co-creation of the language-centered tabletop game focused on representation, analysis, and reflection on the village's language practices. The meta purpose of the game was to familiarize players with some of the language practices of Lacepad, specifically the local greetings. The game concept is centered around a climate change metaphor. The premise is that the village of Lacepad is hit by an ecological disaster and is sinking in the sea of another language. The Forbidden Island alludes to the Hungarian language discourse at Moldavia. The Chandus form language island and strive to preserve Hungarian, which the Romanian majority historically did not allow them to use publicly. So these are the language endangerment rhetorics that we looked at for. The players form a team of brave Hungarian-speaking activists who travel to the Forbidden Django Island to save it together with the locals, to blend in and gain their trust. The activists need to use the local forms of greeting when meeting with the villagers. We had 8 sessions in which players engaged both with each other and the board games creators. We gave the players a short introduction to multilingualism in Lacepad. We described greetings as linked to speakers' local knowledge of their interact and social positions. These are age, gender, ethnicity, occupation, place of residence, which part of the village they live, current location and activity, as well as the organization of local spaces. In the next step, language experts presented the locations of the village and explained the activities that usually take place there. Locations are, for example, the Romanian and Hungarian school. However, the Hungarian school is not a real school. This is a container where afternoon activities are held for children, but it is called the Hungarian school. The church, the local church, the school, and so on. The game is played by 4 individuals or teams who are each assigned 1 character, which are different in terms of gender and age. From Victor, who is an 80-year-old boy, to Kati, who is a 70-year-old woman. Okay, the Hungarian school is the starting point, represented by 5 Lego bricks. And the players try to choose the locally appropriate greetings from the 4 options listed on the action cards. Wrong answers result in the Hungarian school using one of its 5 bricks. Correct answers allow the players either to dry out the locations that are underwater by turning black and white cards to their colored side, or to rebuild the Hungarian school by replacing the previously lost brick. Why we created this game? We tried in this form to show the players that there is a discrepancy between local language practices and the language endangerment rhetorics that they are familiar with. So the players cannot win by enforcing Hungarian language practices in all interactions, but rather by being situationally appropriate in their choice of greetings. To address language endangerment rhetorics, each session ended with a reflective discussion between all the participants, led by the researchers with a university background. During these discussions, we identified two conflicting discourses. The one is the we labeled as interventionist, and the other as laissez-faire. In the interventionist discourses, the rhetorics of language endangerment call for action, while in laissez-faire discourses, multilingualism is considered a given, and there is no need or possibility for interference. Interventionist ideas are hegemonic among our players, embedded in the widespread discussion about the bleak future of the Hungarian language in minority environments. Our goal in creating the game was to subvert the interventionist discourses about language practices that are widely referred to be endangered. Okay, this is an example of the interventionist discourse. I given this example through an excerpt from a university-based researcher, Judith Kaspar, who wrote in her fieldwork diary that the players take their time to characterize little Victor. He is the 8-year-old boy. Quote, his vocabulary is quite poor. He should be taught Hungarian. He speaks this way because of peer pressure. What is seen in these examples that the players think that somebody, maybe the parents or the teachers or the government must intervene to change the situation. The laissez-faire discourse was not so prevalent in these game-playing sessions. Here is an example of the same interaction where Detti presents an interventionist account of the play, and it is contrasted in another one. Detti comes from a Transylvanian village where Hungarians form the majority of the population. And she says that bilingual greetings were not prevalent in her community, and speaking Romanian was usually sanctioned. In contrast, Ági, who is from a bilingual town, stated that azzal nincsen gond, ha fele ápa, fele víz. There is nothing wrong with speaking half apple, half víz, either in Romanian or in Hungarian. This is a laissez-faire approach, which is based on her position living in a bilingual town. These discourses were intentional during our game-playing session. However, the interventions were the hegemonic one. But were the language experts' reflections. When asked after the game session at the conference in Budapest whether the Hungarian language should be saved in laissez-faire, Angela, one of the language experts, some 40-some-year-old woman, she replied, nem mi vészünk el, it is not we who are lost. And in this quote, I would highlight that the use of the word me as a pronoun is important because it presupposes that if not we, then someone other or something other. So Angela's response is a critique of the rhetoric of language endangerment, implying that the language can be lost without loss of its speakers. So coming to my conclusions, I reiterate this figure, and in our participatory linguistic ethnographic research, Moldavian origin people and university-based researchers collaborated to understand marginalized language practices in Moldavia. By acting together, we set emotional mechanism that affected all its elements, all these three elements, the participants who created new knowledge or looked at existing knowledge in a more reflective way, the institutions that have been transformed by the knowledge produced through the research, the families of Lacebed or his circle of friends. These are also institutions, but also the institutional role of the university-based researcher to the extent that the boundaries between the academia and other institutions are crossed in the production of new knowledge. And third, the language of research, which can be disseminated more widely by speaking not only the academic register. In the beginning of my talk, I put two questions: why create memes and games? How to understand, develop encounters in research? Maybe you see that these are closely connected. At least I try to argue that these are closely connected. And I see the outcome and the impact of our projects less in the fact that the Moldavian multilingual practices became familiar to a wider audience, or that the memes and the game created an experience to engage with discourses of language endangerment that are relevant for minority Hungarians. What is for me much more significant is the collaboration that produced these novel representations as a reflections of the participants' multilingual practices. And the reflective understanding of language-related discourses through the democratization of participatory research can lead to a wider impact of one's linguistics expertise in the communities concerned. And this is what we are trying to head off. Okay, here are my references, and thank you for your kind attention.
Can you hear me, or should I? Can you hear me? So thank you, CSANÁD, for this very rich, informative, and